Hey there you guys, welcome back. Today we are going to do a repotting of this, oh my god, what is it? It's the BLC Lucento Doro. It is a bullion. This is the Cattleya type orchid that I have that has been doing so well for me. I don't understand why it's doing so well. This particular one I've had for many years. I don't know, well, not many, like 7 years, I think, maybe 8. I can't really remember. But it has been growing in this pot forever. And I don't remember the last time I repotted it. Maybe 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I'm not sure. Maybe I've had it for 8 years. I don't know, I can't remember. So the pot here is broken, so I need to for sure repot it, mostly because of that. It's doing so well that why would I repot it? It doesn't make any sense. It's got more flower buds. This particular plant has bloomed, I think, 3 or 4 times so far this year for me. And as I was bringing it out and looking it over before the video, I noticed that there's 3 more bloom spikes starting to happen. So there's a bloom spike right here that's starting to occur. I noticed that there was some mealybugs on there, so I wiped them down and gave them a quick spray. And where's the other one? They're opening up here, or they're just coming out, sorry. Oh, there's one not far in here. If I spin this, can you see the spike starting to occur? I'm not sure whether you're able to see it. And then there's one off to the side. One on this particular section right here. So that's so cool. Like, I don't understand why this thing is continuing to bloom. Maybe I've been neglecting it the right way. I've been watering it well and then letting it dry out between waterings. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's been higher light because I've got it in the grow tent. But I put this thing outside over the summertime and it loves it, and it just does so well. So what I'm going to do, oh, it's so funny. Down in the base here, you're probably not able to see it, and I don't think I can zoom in enough for you to see, but there's a jewel of Madagascar, a type of euphorbia that's growing in there. It's kind of like a weed. Once you have it, it sprouts everywhere. It's so pretty in its juvenile state. So, yeah, I'm going to take it from this, I think it was a 5-inch pot, plastic pot, and I'm going to put it into this bigger pot. It's a big-ish jump. There's a lot more space down in the bottom. I would like to leave it in this, but as you can see, it's way too big for this. And yeah, I don't want to divide it. I think it's beautiful the way that it is. And the bigger you can get your plants and not divide it, the more show you get when it blooms. So this one gives me at least 3 spikes of blooms at a time, but it has the potential to do a lot more than that. So anyway, let's get to it. Let's get to pulling this thing apart. And we'll clean off the roots, and then we'll repot it. Okay, so I hope that the angle's right for this camera. I'm trying to get used to this new work situation, and I've been really experimenting with camera angles. So please bear with me. So first thing, I'm just going to cut away this old pot. I might need some pruners. Scissors just didn't seem to want to cut it. It seems to fall apart, but it doesn't want to cut. So I'm just going to cut it away. We've got this piece here growing out the side, so I'm just going to cut so that the little growth can come out and play. Alright, so let's break this. Sure, it's been in here for years and years and years and years. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of dead roots in here. So we'll see what we've got to remove. Isn't this crazy? Okay, I'll take the label out. Sorry, I was off frame. Trying to pull and break. Alright, it's a strong little pot for something that was already starting to fall apart on its own. There we go. Let's see, can we do it? Can we remove it? There we go. So that pot is definitely garbage. So now I'm going to, look at this, the moss that has been growing in this pot. it's been there a while. So I'm going to just try to dislodge the roots from this ball. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of dead roots, but there should be a lot of alive roots as well. Let's flip this over. I might have to take this to the sink and rinse it under some water because the root ball is probably going to be too packed. I'm trying to get in there with my fingers and relatively carefully start a hole. Usually once you can start taking some of the soil out or the media out, it's just it gets easier from there. The trouble is just trying to find your way in. And I also want to go in and remove all of these old dried up sheaths. We'll do that probably after we get the soil off or the media off. I can't remember what I planted this in. It was probably a mixture of bark and sphagnum moss. And with the moss, I really shouldn't have left it as long as I did, because as the moss breaks down, it gets more acidic and can damage your roots. So this mix I'm going to be doing this time is going to probably be more of equal parts bark, fir bark with coconut coir or coconut husk, and some charcoal. This is the least exciting video ever. Trying to get in here to get a hole. There we go. Okay, I'm starting to get a hole developed here. Now, when I poke, I should be able to poke in through to the hole and get some of this stuff falling out. You'll see it coming out onto the table. It's a process. This process can take a while. It's interesting, the stuff that's coming out is more like a soil than with little tiny bark chips than a chunky mix that it started off with. So I'm going to continue this off camera, and I'm just going to play with this, massage the root system, and try to get as much of this media off as I can, and then we'll come back and see what we got for roots. Okay, so I've got as much of the media off as I can get. I ended up taking it over to the sink and trying to give it a rinse off. It was really hard to get up into the base here because there's just so much plant material and roots developing there that I felt like I was breaking more good stuff than I was taking out old media. So to my surprise, a lot of these roots are still looking really okay. So I'm not going to be removing all that much. I'm just going through here, and I want to cut out anything that looks a little worse for wear. Any dead roots. So you'll know a dead root because it doesn't have the thick coating over the root anymore. It just looks like wires. So remove any of those. Generally, brown squishy is no good, and green and plump is pretty good, or is very good. You get white plump, that can also be okay. Green tends to be something that was exposed to the sun. It can photosynthesize in many cases, and white might just be because it was hidden deeper into the pot. Generally, orchid roots will tend to migrate towards the edge of the pot anyway, in my experience. It's not very often I open up a pot and the central section of the pot has roots in it. Usually that's the dead, well, not the dead zone, but usually it's full of the potting mix. So I'm just going through. I just want to try to find anything that's no good. And again, I'm really surprised because this poor plant I thought was getting neglected, but it seemed to have enjoyed the neglect. So with many types of Cattleyas, they require a dormancy period, like a dry dormancy period. So they like to be watered maybe during the summer months, and then in the wintertime they want a cooler, dry period, and I guess I've been doing that without knowing it. So, yay for me! Because I do tend to put these plants outside for the summertime, and I water them when I water the garden, and they dry out a lot faster outside than they do inside. So, yeah. So I'm just looking in here to see if there's any bad roots that I can tell right away. But for the most part, they might be white, but they're not looking so bad. They're a little gnarled, just from their slower growth rate. But all in all, they look like they're not so bad. Here's one. Oh, it just came off. So that's a bonus. Looking pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to go and we're going to clean up the top section. I want to get rid of any of the old sheaths. The reason why I want to get rid of any of the old papery sheaths is because that is a place that the pests love to hide under. If it doesn't come off easily, I'm not going to take it off. But there's a lot there that is just kind of hanging on, just very lightly. So I'm just going to go through and clean up what I can. We'll come back when I'm finished this process, because it could take me a little while just to make sure that I got everything. I'm taking off any old flower sheaths as well, where it's past blooms. I tend not to remove those all the time. So like this one here is brown, so I'm going to cut it just back to the leaf, as close to the leaf as I can. There we go. I'm just going to go through the whole plant and just clean it up. Okay, so we got this pretty well cleaned up, better than it was. It's not perfect by any means, but I didn't need to take everything off. I just wanted to do what I could to make it look a little nicer. So I'll put that off to the back here. Move all of this junk off to the side. We'll dispose of that later. Stand upright. Stand upright. Okay, so I want to start mixing some soil or some media for this guy, and I'm going to. I want to measure into this pot that it's going to go into. I don't want to do too much. Okay. All right. So basically, when I'm measuring, I want basically one part. I'm going to do one part of medium fir bark, and I'll do one part of coconut husk, and I'm going to do one part of charcoal. And I'll probably throw in a little bit of moss just because I have it here. I like the way that moss holds onto some moisture. Actually, I might not do moss because I've got the coconut husk. The coconut husk does a really good job. Sorry for my arms across the camera. My coconut husk was on the other side. So let's measure into this pot again. The coconut husk looks a lot like the fir bark, except it holds a lot more moisture. So there we go. It's nice big particle sizes. Again, sorry for my arm. And let me go over here and get some charcoal. This one I'm actually just going to pour in directly. There we go. And you know what? I am going to put a little bit of moss in. I've got it here. Just a small little bit of long fiber sphagnum moss. I'm just going to mix it up till it's good and combined. There we go. It's a nice really chunky mix. It's going to hold a little bit of moisture, not a lot. There we go. I seem to change my soil mixes around each time I repot something. Trying something new. Okay, so I just want to put enough down in the bottom of the pot to fill that void. And now I'm just going to take this pot, or this plant, I'm not going to do anything really to the roots. I'm just going to place it in there. This pot already looks too small for the growth that it has, but at least the side growths are going to be able to send out roots down into the soil, or into the media. And now I'm just going to fill in around the plant. I don't want to waste all of this. I want to give it a good packing down. I don't want it to be like concrete, but I want to get rid of the big air pockets. Some air pockets are fine. It's an orchid after all. It's an epiphyte, so it doesn't need to be in soil. So it just wants to have some moisture by its roots. So let's try to poke some more in here. It's going to prove to be interesting. Kind of tip the plant up a little bit so I can get underneath it. If you break some roots, well, it's not ideal, but it's not going to kill the plant unless you break all of the roots. That could be a problem. But it's a plant; it will regrow. So don't worry too much. Don't stress yourself out. All right. So there we go, it's all potted up in there. There was a lot of roots to begin. Let's move the camera angle up a bit. Ooh, I've got some extra soil. I'm going to add this into one of my aeroid mixes, as you can't even see it. I've got some extra. I'll use this with my philodendrons. I'll add a little bit of soil to it, some Pro Mix, and a little extra perlite, and that'll be perfect for some aeroids. Alright, so it's a better camera angle for talking about it. As I'm moving this plant around, I noticed that there's a big void right here, so I'm just going to go and fill up in this void. It'll get the plant to be a little bit more secure. I didn't notice it when it was lower down. It's really hard to get it past the lip. The roots will grow in and fill in those voids. No worries, but just fill it the best you can. There we go. So this plant hopefully will enjoy this. Hopefully I didn't kill it. It's just my luck. It's been growing so well, just neglected and neglected. I showed a little bit of love and it will probably collapse. So I will give this a quick drink just to moisten all of the stuff that's in there, to encourage the roots to start developing again, because many of them were sitting outside of the pot as well. Yeah, it'll nestle it also into its new home, and I'll let it dry out before the next watering. That's the fun thing about Cattleyas. They do like really bright light. Some of them are a little different than others. You'll notice if you get reddening in the leaves, it's getting a little bit too much light, a little excess amount of lights. You want to see a little bit of red coming out in the leaves, but you want to have that nice yellowy green. If it's a really dark green, it's not getting enough light. If it's a nice yellow green, or kind of like a sickly yellow green, that's kind of a good thing. And then a little bit of red tinge is also a good thing. You know that you're getting enough light with Cattleyas. Every species tends to be a little bit different to what is too much light, so you'll have to try it out on your own. But this one can tolerate pretty bright light. I'm in Canada, so my bright light could be under light shade for you, depending on where in the world you are. So just keep that in mind. I don't want you to fry your plants because you live in the tropics. But if you live in the tropics, it's probably growing outside, and you don't need to worry about what I say anyway. It just grows naturally. Anyway, so show me what you're growing. I'd love to see your orchids. Post photos to the Plants and Things What's Growing page on Facebook. Also tag me on Instagram on your repotting projects. I know that right now is not the optimal time. It's the end of December, almost January, and yeah, it's not the ideal time. But in the grow room, everything is still growing. We got flower buds to prove it. So and just all kinds of new growth in here. It's incredible. So it really loves the grow tent. So anyway, I'm rambling. Until next time, you guys, happy growing.